what's going on again, another review of the campaign and asking for donations again. So I will post these and send out an email. I just got them in the last few days. So you can probably take those and just reward them for what you're doing. So I invite you to think outside the box and who your prospects are. Les told me that he sends those out to all the businesses in town, and that's how he does it. I did reach out to a few other advisors, and a lot of them told me that they were either mailing them to businesses or else going door to door with the letters with their students to those businesses around town. So that seems to pretty common. While I know many of you know other producers in your area that are probably good prospects for you as well that you could send the letter to.
Any questions on those letters or ideas or suggestions? Oh, there's Randy. You'll have to unmute yourself, Randy. There we go.
I have a question too. Go ahead, Randy.
Like with Les or other chapters like him, are they doing this and still doing their other fundraising efforts like fruit sales or labor auction or whatever they do in their community? You know that they're doing this on top of that?
Some of them are, yes. I know that I talked to Chris Spath earlier today, and she said that they're still doing their fruit sales. They're doing it in addition, and they're also sending out cards. She said they get a lot of people that say they just want to make a donation, and they're just going to give them a donation card at that time. So that's how they're incorporating it into their fruit sales. The others didn't really mention it at all.
Okay.
Some incorporate it as part of the labor auctions where they give donors an option to, you know, it really comes down to they're hosting an event. Pretty much that's what a labor auction is. You're hosting an event where you're raising money. And so some have incorporated that by donors can do that by just filling out the card there.
Okay.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not wild about the fruit sales, incorporating it as to part of that. I mean, it's a, you know, I think it's, at the end of the day, we would like to have this be, you know, people connecting with program in a meaningful way. So
I think
it happens, but
yeah, but I see it also as a way for. I know you all love doing fruit sales and labor auctions, and I say that jokingly, but a good way to phase that out, because I think that Les could agree with me when we were talking about how you continue to see people, those people, same people donate year after year because they get that same letter. It looks the same every year, and they're used to getting it around the same time frame. And so as more people jump on that bandwagon, you'll see less of a need for other fundraisers. That's my take on it.
Well, the reason I asked that question, especially in a small community like Hayes Center, they get dinged so many times. And, you know, I think a person has to be careful about, so we're having fruit sales, we're having a labor auction, then we come back and ask for another donation. And I think you have to be very, you know, as somebody who's been in the fundraising business the last 5 or 6 years, like I have too, you have to be careful with that, especially in the small rural areas.
Yeah, I think it can serve to either augment or maybe modify what's going on. If, you know, you're a new teacher in a new program and, you know, gosh, part of me would say, don't even start fruit sales. Oh my gosh, to start that beast, just go out and make a big push on making appeals just for money. I mean, right, JC, you just need money.
Right. We haven't done fruit sales yet, and that's what I was kind of going to ask the same question. I didn't really think this could be done just in and of itself. I thought it was supposed to be connected with an event.
Oh, no.
So
no,
it would be easier than I thought.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. It's standalone. How I can, if any of you have been are aware of like the United Way, they go to big companies and do, hey, give to your favorite nonprofit through the United Way. Well, this is kind of the same thing that we're doing. We're saying, hey, give to a local FFA chapter. And we do this big, push with Husker Sports and these radio ads. But ultimately, it's about that local donor making that decision to make a tax-deductible donation to help their local chapter. And we're just helping support that and advocate for it. But I'm telling you, JC, you could do a letter campaign, and you could do, just be at a basketball game and have students talking about, I believe, there's got to be a way that you don't have to do fruit sales.
How long do they run the campaign? Like from when you send out the letter till when, do you just, like if we did it soon, you just leave it open till the end of January? Or
honestly,
you wouldn't?
No, I would say I would give them a short time frame. Even though the campaign runs through February, the reason that we do that is because we know you all have things going on at different times of the year, and you need to do it at different times of the year. So if you're going to do a letter now, I would give them maybe 4 weeks to respond. And if they get it to you late, here's what we run into is people, like, I'll give you an example of our jacket fund. There are always people that send in their thing. I receive it in the mail 2 days later, where we can't accept those for the jacket fund just because of how the program is set up. But if you do it now and you give them 4 weeks, we can still accept the money through February.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
It gives them a reason to act faster.
Mm-hmm.
So the logistics, we mail the letter with the card. They send us their check with the card back, and then we package all that together and send all the checks to you.
You can if you want to. You don't have to. We have something like Les's actually says to mail it to us.
Yeah.
And our address is on the donation card.
Okay.
So if you want to collect them, if you're having an event, for example, and it's probably better for you to collect them just for fundraising purposes. That's a good practice to have when you have an event. But if you're sending out letters, I would just have them send it directly to us. That way they know it really is going to a 501c3 nonprofit, and we'll get it and send them a tax deductible receipt right back.
And then how long before we know that it's working for us? Like, do we just wait till you send out that report, or is there a way to remind? Like, I wouldn't want to remind people if they've already been doing it, but
you can always ask me. I can always run the report. I'm hoping this year with our new database system that I will be able to run reports more regularly and send those out more regularly. But if I ever am falling behind, you can always email me and ask me how it's going and if people are donating.
The donors, as soon as we get the check, well, hopefully things will be a little more efficient than it was the previous 2 years, just because we have hired an accountant to do all of it, all the data entry for, I believe. If somebody makes a donation online, they should get a tax deductible receipt within 24 hours. If they go online.
If it's online, it should almost be instant.
Yeah.
But if it's a check, they'll get a tax deductible receipt, I would say probably within 3 weeks.
Okay.
Probably should be shorter than that, but within 3 weeks.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
I have another question. And this is all new since I taught last time.
Yeah.
So the benefit of having them send the money to the Nebraska FFA Foundation as opposed to sending it just direct to the FFA chapter that's getting it. Fill me in on the benefits of doing that.
In terms of sending it as part of this program, obviously the benefit is that we're tax deductible. They'll get a tax deductible receipt, and then there's the matching funds that go along with it. Now, if you're talking about JC's question earlier about whether she should collect them and send them to us, or they should send them straight to us, I would say the benefit is less work for you. That's the main benefit. And then it goes straight to us, and we'll take care of it from there. If you want to keep track of it,
that's just
and all
it.
of that, then you can.
I can see where you'd want to. There is value in knowing. I think, like, I would want to know, okay, who's donated? Who do I still need to follow up with? I mean, you can reach out to us and, every week and be like, hey, what do you have so far with Hay Center? So that can be done too. We'll work with you on that. Yeah, I think whatever works better for you. But it's really them writing the check to the foundation it's the tax deduction. They're not going to get that through an FFA chapter. So I guess that's a selling angle, so to speak, trying to advocate for people to really give more money because it's a tax deduction. They can give grain. Oh my gosh, they could give cattle. They could give anything to your chapter. Going this route. So that doesn't mean they're not going to not write a check to your chapter, and it doesn't mean that your school's not going to cash it. You can still use it. It's just that whole tax deduction piece.
So are the laws now, because it used to be if you wrote a check directly to the FFA, and I can see the benefit of doing the 501c3, and the other big benefit I can see is if you've got the online system, because most chapters don't have an online donation system.
Oh, yeah.
And I can see that as being, especially if you develop this down the road.
Yeah.
But is it not true that they still can receive a tax deduction for writing a check direct to an FFA chapter?
Nope. An FFA chapter is just a student organization. You're tax exempt, but you're not you can't give tax deductions. Even a school can't say, oh, you made this donation to our school. They can't even give a tax deductible receipt. It has to be a 501c3.
I see.
Are the only ones that can put down this is a tax deduction.
There's going to be a lot of surprised farmers if they ever get audited.
Well, I think we learned that, when I was teaching, I remember people would come and buy plants and be like, is this tax deductible? I'd be like, yeah, sure. I mean, I didn't know. So I think it's a learning curve for all of us, Randy. And so, as much work as it takes to have a public charity and make sure you're doing audits and you're legit with IRS, it is not easy. And I would not, unless you have just an alumni who is rock stars with keeping up to date on that, I wouldn't even touch it with a 10-foot pole. It is so much work. So at least that's my take, Randy. I don't know. You worked in nonprofits. There's a lot of paperwork.
That there is.
Public charity part. So, so that's my appeal, I guess, an angle, to be like, hey, instead of giving 25, why don't you give 100? Because you can write the whole thing off. So.
And I think Waverly did ask me today, Chris asked me, how much did we make on our matching funds last year? And for every $1 they sent in, they got $1.12 back, which equaled, I don't have the sheet anymore, it was a couple $100. So it makes a difference. One thing that I thought was interesting when I emailed her is like, what could you buy with $200 even for your classroom or for this project that you're working on, which is a good, fun way to quantify it if you're doing a letter too. Why don't you buy us, 4 new textbooks or something like that would be a fun way to put it and make people understand what they're donating to.
I think we'll see, this is my take, because we aren't taking chapter FFA checks or alumni checks. I think we'll see I don't think we'll see as big a numbers with people, because we would have chapters that would turn in a $5,000 chapter check or a $5,000 alumni check, and that would get matched up to $5,000. We're not doing any of that anymore because an FFA chapter doesn't need the tax deduction, and an alumni is tax deductible already anyway. They don't need the deduction. So I think there's some, I think for those chapters that are trying to get it up and running and going, I think you'll see a greater amount that comes back. That's my hunch. Anyway.
Now, maybe you're going to get into this, so I don't want to get ahead of you here, and I don't want to take up everybody else's time, but I'm just new to what you're doing here.
Mm-hmm.
So how does the matching fund work? How does that side of it work?
Sarah doesn't remember.
It's proportionate to the amount of money that you raise compared to the lump sum that the local chapters raise. So there's this big Excel spreadsheet of formulas that we do that says, okay, you raised 10% of the total that was raised. And so you get 10% of our matching pot. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. It can be hard to explain sometimes.
It's not dollar for dollar.
Right. So there's $24,000 in total. And it's only split out to people who participate.
Okay.
For a student, I think for them, if they're communicating the matching funds, I think just saying that there's $24,000 in matching funds, I would just leave it at that. Otherwise it gets it's hard for a student to, I think. You get all of it back plus some additional matching funds. It's easy for them to communicate that.
Okay.
Okay. I'm just going to finish running through these 10 tips for local fundraising because I know we're getting close to half an hour. And if you guys have any more questions, you can certainly ask. Host an event we've talked about. Number 5. Are we sharing this still? Yeah. Okay. Going on calls. You know, Randy, you probably know all about this. Is just if you have students setting up a call with a large donor locally might garner potentially a $5,000 gift. We have had one individual give $15,000 through this program before. JC, no joke. I'm not joking. And so I really do, like Randy, in your case, I think you have people that you know that if you had a couple of FFA members go out and do a call, you could probably, you know, but JC, even in your same situation, there's probably some folks in your area where if they're the right people, maybe just taking 1, maybe 2 or 3 in the month and just being like, okay, we're all going to go, maybe take a couple officers with you and just talk about maybe what's on your letter. What are they doing? What's your program about? And yeah, just.
Yeah, and I think that that just reminds me about the video contest that's coming up because that's a great opportunity to even sit down and talk to them about what you're doing and show this video that hopefully you're both working on in your classrooms already, but making those kind of multi-purpose. And it reminded me of Matt shared a PowerPoint that he did when he was at Blair for that greenhouse that they built. That was really cool. I should share that on with you all later after the call too. But it's got great tips on what to put in there and what's important for those bigger donors probably to see than those $100 people that you're getting from letters.
Right. I think it's all about the students telling their story. We coach our board a lot on, you know, just tell your story. What is your FFA story? You, even as an ag teacher, what's your FFA story? And then that donor starts talking about it, and all of a sudden they feel connected and inclined to support what you're doing because they get goosebumps. So there's that piece of just telling your story, having the students talk about their story, where if they go on calls, that's sometimes that's a great way to facilitate a gift. Online marketing methods, I'm going to let Sarah talk about that one.
Well, we do have online set up now. I know Randy mentioned that earlier. They can go to our page and donate. They have to type in your chapter name, and I'm told that in December is when we're going to have the new donation widget up and running. So we should be able to create a donation page specifically for your chapter. So they won't be having to type in, and we can include other things on the page as well. So just know that that's coming. Right now our timeline is December for that, but I'd invite you to use other methods online as well. Of, you know, if you're already creating this YouTube video, here's another purpose for it, to share it online, and have your students get creative about what they're doing in the classroom and sharing that online, and integrating it into things that you're already doing.
You know, I'll just throw it. I think, and you know, JC, you've got a new program, and Randy, you're, you know, reestablishing a program. Sarah and I were talking yesterday, gosh, wouldn't it be easy if you just did something after your during your annual banquet and did the appeal there and said, you know what, the cards are here, make a gift. Or you can go over to, we have a parent, or maybe you've got an FFA member where we, the foundation, have created that website for you for that day or maybe a week. And then people go and make those gifts at that time. So I just think, and I will tell you, we're to the point now with our accounting group where we might be able to cut these checks sooner and more frequently than one time a year. Because right now it's showing up as a liability on our cash flows because we owe it back to those donations are restricted back to your chapter. So that might be something, JC, where you're a new chapter and you don't have any money, or Randy, you know, they ran out of money where you might need it a little bit sooner. And I think we'd work on that with a case-by-case basis. But we just figured that out the last couple weeks with the new accountants, that we can cut checks up quicker. So if that's important, where you do, maybe you do something and you need the money the next month, we can cut those checks sooner and still keep track of how much you've raised. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Number 8, get community members involved in your program. I think like what they've done, like the Feed the Farmer, where you might work with a industry contact and have something at the local co-op or
I'll share the story from Tony at Freeman too of
sure.
when he first started fundraising for their Growing Dome, and this is kind of somewhat related, but also he did a lot of other things on this list as well. But by getting the community involved in what they were doing, one of the bankers even came to him that year and said, "We have land we want to donate for this Growing Dome." And so it turned out that the land there wasn't enough sunlight or something. I don't know all the specifics, but it didn't work out for this project. But then he still wanted to donate the land. And so now they have a community garden. So that was the next year's project of why they were raising money. So they put a community garden in this land. So it's not necessarily even related to the I Believe campaign, but it's a good way to get the word out on what you're doing in the community, and you're raising money for things. And it may be volunteers that you're getting out of the deal. And that's a pretty sweet deal too. It takes some off of your back as well.
Number 9, be prepared to follow up. I think it's just like that email I sent out. Just be willing to follow up, ask again, ask for help, ask for money. It's just be willing to follow up. Sometimes it happens, and this, Randy, you go out and you ask and you talk about a program you have, but you do need to just even one follow-up, you'd be surprised how people were thinking about it, and they'll give after if they weren't ready then later on.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes that some of the other teachers even said they send out letters and then they go to door a few weeks later. So it's just a reminder. And if they didn't give the first letter, they see a shiny face in an FFA jacket, and it may incline them to give the second time.
Yeah, and the last one, recognize your donors. We provide recognition, obviously, through our annual report. We'll put their names in there, and also we send out an I Believe thank you booklet that will have their names in there as well. We're not going to put it in the state convention program book this year. We're trying to cut that document down. So
some of our chapters this year are talking about doing different levels of giving and recognizing their donors according to which level they're on. So name it after however you want. They're coming up with different names about the different degrees that you can get in FFA or the stations, and raising money that way to get people to jump up to the next level. If they've donated maybe $25 in the past, maybe they would donate $50 this year if they had a special name for their little group. And then they're recognizing them with banners or plaques or different things like that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all we have. I'm trying to think if we've forgotten. I just use this as a resource. We want to not add to what you do. We don't want to add more work to what you're doing, but hopefully help streamline things a little more. I'm kind of, JC, what do you do for fundraising right now?
We had a labor auction for the first time last year, a silent labor auction.
Oh, okay.
Move it to live labor auction this year. For the first 2 years, we had a bull ride, like full-blown rodeo bull ride, and it was a ton of work, and we're not doing that anymore. And so I would like to get involved with the I Believe, but I have a question that doesn't probably pertain to a whole lot of people, but I'm going to be going on maternity leave in a couple days, couple weeks, and be gone the majority of December and January. So I was hoping just to see if it's even something that would be feasible right now, or if I should wait till spring.
I think you could always send the letters out, JC.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. If any of you need help writing those letters or need another set of eyes, just send them to me and I'll gladly take a look at them if that helps. I write a lot of those types of things all the time, so I can certainly help you. Yeah, if you just have them send the donation cards to us, that would make it a lot easier for you, and it's something that you probably could do now. And while the deadline is the end of February, in reality, you could raise money at any time of the year. So Stacy mentioned the banquets, and if you wanted to do it then, that seems like a great time to do it.
I'm sorry, there were 3 other people on. I didn't even know. I thought it was just Randy and JC. Mr. Engelhop, Jerome, anything you want to add? You'll have to unmute yourself.
Nothing really. I think I came kind of late, so I missed out on some of what you were saying. No, I think what you have is great. I just we just need to make some changes here at our program and get out and knock on doors. You know.
Yeah. Which they're doing. You know, they're doing that already. If doing fruit sales, it's just a matter of how can you maybe not sell the fruit, but really talk about the donation. Yeah,
you know, we've got a group this year that is planning to do the WLC trip next year. We just started doing some fundraisers, and you know, this might be the best opportunity to work with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that one. That's a good idea.
One other thing that I wanted to bring up was I talked to Chris Spath when I talked to her earlier today. She said that her alumni couldn't come up with any sort of fundraising event to help them raise money, and she just gave them a stack of cards and said, if you could just take ownership of this and use this project to raise money, you won't have to worry about handling any of the money. All you have to do is use your own target, your own prospects in the area, and help us figure out how to raise money that way. And she sent them off, so I'm curious to see how they do. But she said, if you want us to stop asking you for money, you need to help us raise money through this program.
Do you have any sample letters that you could send out? I think that would help us a lot.
Yep, I've got a couple, and I shared them a little earlier, but I'll email them out. I just got them the last couple days.
Okay, super.
Yeah, one is Les Rogenkamp has 2 different examples, and we actually get a lot of checks through Les's letter.
I see. That's the one we want then.
Yeah, exactly. And what's cool about this is as we will be able to see what donors you have and how they're continuing to give. So if there's, you know, when we get savvy and have a lot of time someday, or if you want information, we can actually go in and see, you know, here's who's given to your program over the last 5 years, and here's how they've increased or decreased, whatever, which will be how have you retained a lot of donors? Those kinds of things. Good. Yeah.
No. But I think the key is you know, once you can get those donors to give, it's just kind of like you've reiterated before. If they get used to that philanthropy, you know, it will continue.
Yes. Yes. We are all creatures of habit. So, yep.
Yeah.
And make sure that you invite them to your banquet too every year and recognize them there. Even if you don't do an appeal there, that's a great way to recognize them.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Katie or Joel? Questions?
How do I mute this again?
Down in the lower, isn't the lower left-hand corner, Jerome?
Okay.
Yep.
Is there a video that explains this a little bit? On Monday night next week, we have a green hand ceremony. Is there something that we could play other than just talking about? Or not so much?
No. No, I was trying to think of what would work.
That's fine. I just didn't know.
No, we don't have anything specific for a video
like a commercial to play.
No, we have the radio ads that are running on Husker Sports Marketing and Nebraska Radio Network, but they don't go into very much detail.
Okay.
About the program.
You know, if I was just going to 3 points to make to donors, if you're at an event that your FFA is hosting, I would say, you know, this is what's going on with our chapter. These are things that we're doing that we need money and your support for. And having a student say whatever those things are. Here's what we're doing and here's what we need money for. The second thing is I would let them know, one way that they can give is through the I Believe in the Future of Ag campaign, because we get the checks are sent to, you can just describe operationally what's happening, that they can go and fill out these donation cards. I would have, Sarah can set up for you she can set up a website where, right? Or they can go to the website. You could have an iPad set up, JC, to the Nebraska FFA Foundation website and have people make donations right there.
Okay.
Or hand out the cards.
Hand out the cards.
Have them given back to you as they leave.
Yeah, sometimes you could, what I like to do is when we do our fundraising event for state convention, we make sure people are seated down. We explain what we're doing. We have someone give the creed. People love the creed. It makes them feel warm and fuzzy inside. It connects them with the mission of what we're doing. And then we have all stand up and talk about where are we going? What are we doing? And so I think, that's the role of the ag teacher. Where are we going? What are we doing? And then maybe having an officer speak about here's what we need money for. We're going to WLC, we're going to state convention, whatever it is. Maybe the student has some things that they're talking about. So you give them a reason to feel all warm, fuzzy inside, right? And then you say, here's where we're going. Here's the leadership we're providing, the vision that we have. And then thirdly, you have a student say, here's what we need funding for today. And then after that, the student needs to walk them through the card. So when that student is saying, here's what we need money for, they have that donation card and they're saying, students are passing out all those donation cards, JC, when people are sitting down. And then that student is saying, put Chambers at the top of this donation card and write your name out. We want to have this information, from your family. And then please consider making a gift. Somebody's got to do the ask. That's the toughest thing. I know you're ag teachers and you're not salespeople, but you got to do an ask. And it's hard, but you have to ask and say, we really would like to have, I think it's marked on there, 25. Can't they choose, or is it just so they can choose. But don't let them leave without turning back in the cards. These people showed up to watch their kids, maybe if, okay. That's just me. I'm hardcore. I'm like, you're not leaving until you fill out the card.
They would need to give the check then at that same time, though, right? Yeah.
But the thing is, you also have to recognize that on our cards that we hand out during our event, they aren't required to check. That one of the boxes says, "Please contact me at a later time." So if you say we have to get this card back from you, they're going to feel obligated, like she's
make them feel obligated.
But you have to recognize, and I'm going to disagree with Stacy. You have to recognize that several people, like my husband and I, and we're raising money for our church right now, so I can use him as an example. And I brought this up during our meeting, is that some people, like my husband, are not going to agree to donate money at that time because they need to think about it. And you're probably going to get more money from them later once they're the next day, the 2 days later, when you follow up with them and say, how do you think? What do you think? How did it go? Like, what are your feelings on the program? And he would probably say, yeah, I'll give this much money.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. Any other questions, comments? Oh, Joel, we can't hear you. Oh, you're muted now. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry.
You can email or call later.
Matt.
Joel, you might have to go into your audio settings at the bottom and choose computer audio before we're able to hear you. Otherwise, you can go to the chat and just type your question. question in if that's easier.
No.
By the way, everyone, while we're waiting for Joel to figure that out, I was sorry I was late to it, and so I started about 9 minutes into your presentation, or 9 minutes after 4 is when I hit record on here. But you have been recorded this whole time, or since that point, so we'll post this as an archive once we're done.
Okay.
Joel, did you figure it out? You want to sign language it? Are you on an iPad? No. Just go down to the bottom of this window and move your mouse down to the bottom. There's a chat button you can click, and then you can type your question to everybody. There he is. Look at him type. That's a typing face if I ever saw one. This is going to be one heck of a question, I can just tell. Joel's question, if checks are to be written more often, how is the matching funds going to be figured out?
The matching funds, from what Stacy and I discussed, would be sent out still one time per year. So we'll keep records throughout the year of how much you've raised. It'll be the same time period, so you'll get your matching check right after state convention, which will recognize people at state convention just like we have in the past.
We have the ability now in our accounting software, so when somebody makes a donation, we actually post it to I believe, and then to that chapter, and you actually have your own account in our accounting software. So it posts it, you have your own account. So we can run reports and even know with what parameter of time gifts were made from February 1st to, let's say, December 31st. And you say, I'd like to have the money because maybe you did your event over the summer, and maybe you need the money before you go to a national convention. So we could actually cut you that check, October 1st, but it's still, we still know how much was raised for that, that year's fundraising contest piece for the match.
Joel followed up just with a comment. Oh. He says, thank you. I really didn't have any other questions other than to say thank you for all that the foundation does for Nebraska FFA.
You're welcome. We are glad to. We'd like just have more and more programs involved with this. I think it's a really nice way. I just really think it's a good program. I'm partial, but...
Stacy and Sarah, have you heard of anybody doing, any chapters doing like a gala event? I think about some of the things we did when I was at the hospital foundation. I tell you what, I would love to get rid of fruit sales.
Yeah, wouldn't we all love to kill fruit sales? So Silver Creek had a 10-year chapter anniversary. Silver Creek, Sandy Creek?
Sandy Creek.
Sandy Creek. And they did an appeal. They had a silent auction, and they utilized, I believe, as the mechanism for, I think they did an appeal there. I think they may have had a silent auction, and then they maybe just did a general appeal. So you could do either one. I don't know if a gala would be that, other than what you're doing with your, I think try to making it mission-based with what you're doing, like a green hand ceremonies or your annual banquet. I think those are, such easy ways just to do a basic appeal and ask. So if there's organizations in your community, like maybe a farm bureau or maybe a corn growers association, groups that are maybe having annual meetings where maybe you could partner with them to do an appeal. I think that would be an easy way to engage people that you might not have before. I think we talk about how we would like to go into like the Farm Credit Services and maybe the Plains Equipment offices in like Omaha and Lincoln, and just do appeals so that employees can either give to, I believe, to a chapter that they're affiliated with, or to our annual giving, or to the jacket program. So just think about industries that you might have in your community that they could partner with you on, I believe. Does that make sense? I mean,
right. And again, I just look at our situation out here. We really don't have many industries in Hayes Center.
no.
I mean, you got about 3 businesses in town.
Mhm.
And so it's going to be more of a partnering with the farmers and ranchers in the area.
Yeah,
I mean, that's where it's going to come from for us.
it is.
So
I honestly think, Randy, you could make a lot of headway just doing, and you know how to do individual calls, having done fundraising for the last several years. So I know it's just more time, and your annual banquet, I think, gosh, that would be an easy way to do an appeal with, I believe, in those cards. So it would obviously be after convention, so you'd have to wait. I mean, you wouldn't get recognition until the following convention, but who cares? If you need the money, you need. Very welcome. We appreciate everything you're all doing.
For the tips.
Mm-hmm. See ya. Good luck, JC.
Thank you.
Thanks, all. Hey, Joel, did it work? I can't hear you.
Yes, it did. I think I figured it out. So.
Oh, there you are. Good.
Yep.
Good deal.
Thank you for your help with that, Matt. So.
Yeah, no problem at all. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.